Hi, hello everybody. Hi. Welcome. Welcome to the Way of Truth number 4. This is a broadcast where we speak about spirituality, spiritual awakening, enlightenment, happiness, well being, and all other things. I am your enlightened host. My name is Artem. People just call me Artem. This is my website, so if you're interested, take a look. You can also join my online community on Discord, which is also referenced from this website. And off we go. So, one thing that I'd like to mention is let me post a comment. So, if you would like to participate in this broadcast live, then please follow this link. So, on both YouTube and Facebook, actually, it's been posted. So, if you follow this link, you'll be able to join live and have a video conversation with me, which is always better than me answering questions from comments without seeing you or talking to you. But if you would like to do that, you can do that also. So just post comments to YouTube or Facebook, and I'll be able to bring them up on screen and read it. Yeah, I guess that's it. So we have one person waiting in the waiting room. Dag, I can see you. We also switched from Restream to StreamYard. So before I bring in Dag, I would like to answer some questions from my backlog of questions from my Discord community. Okay, let me take a look. So this question is from May 30th from Stormy Summer. I actually don't remember if I already addressed it, but I think I haven't, so I would like to read it again. So he says, when I listen to spiritual audio tapes, e.g. speeches, I feel better than usual. But there, I do not really recognize the going through an emotion by completely accepting it. It works though. I do become less selfish and so on. Other people like being around me. It also helps lessening my fear and anxieties. But the thing is, when I do not have access to that, I'm more miserable. Should I only try and practice without using audio tapes, or can they be beneficial for awakening? Yes, this is actually quite common. I mean, I even saw a very funny YouTube video sketch where a person would be like, "Oh, I need my spiritual fix. I need my spiritual fix. Should I listen to Muji or should I listen to Adi Shanti? Oh, maybe is there something new?" So I don't know if that's what's going on with you, but it happens. Yeah. So with regards to listening to anybody, listening to audio tapes or reading books and things like that, you can quite possibly form a sort of a dependent relationship to them if they're soothing to you, right? So like you listen to a voice of your favorite spiritual teacher and it's soothing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to authentic spiritual practice, you can actually use it and a sort of escape from all the turmoil and pain that is going on within you. So, my advice when it comes to listening to spiritual teachers is always the same. For as long as they bring something up in you, when you listen or when you read a book or you listen to someone, if they bring something up in you, then it's good. Then this is an opportunity, a moment where you can explore your reaction to what is being said. And it could be something very beautiful, or maybe something is opening up within you, or it could be something objectionable. It could be anger, or it could be something else. It could be fear, oftentimes. So from this perspective, and it can be good practice, and the same applies to reading, actually. But if you have simply formed a relationship with it, so that when you feel bad, then you listen to a spiritual teacher and you feel better, then this isn't going to help you too much uh, in your own progression, in your own practice. So that is what's happening. Then yes, a solitary practice, a solitary meditation practice would be much more beneficial than simply listening. So it's a question of honesty. It's a question of self-honesty. So ask yourself, I mean, are you using those tapes or videos or books as a place to escape from difficulty, as soothing, right? And if the answer is yes, and if you're honest with yourself, you know, then 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 you shouldn't, right? Then you should work alone. Um, okay, so I answered this question. Uh, Alex is asking on June 4th, is the nature of society and socialization to cover freedom, which would mean that the nature of freedom is to destroy society. Okay. So I don't know what you exactly. I don't know what you mean exactly when you say destroy society. So if you mean destroy society in a sort of a, the nature of freedom is some sort of a mayhem, uh, absolute anarchy, then no, of course not. I mean, the reason that we're afraid of the destruction of society, the reason that we think without with a good cause, actually, that if there were no rules, there would be mayhem, is because we all know, regardless of whether it's conscious or unconscious, that people aren't actually okay, right? So that a lot of people need rules in order to not be destructive, and we need to enforce it. So I wouldn't say that the nature of the spiritual journey is to destroy society in this regard, but the culture, right? So we can differentiate between society and culture. The culture is actually quite cruel and quite prescriptive and quite intolerant, and the culture teaches subservience and dominance. It teaches judgment. It teaches respect and disrespect. Uh, it teaches us to value some people over others. It teaches us to devalue ourselves and constantly compare ourselves to those who it poses as ideals. So the culture is deeply how I would put it, is deeply restrictive of freedom and is deeply judgmental. So the nature of the spiritual path is destroying the culture in your mind, I would say, right? It is a scary process. It can be a very difficult and disorienting process. But the paradox of it is that destroying the culture in your mind doesn't make you anarchic, destructive, or violent. It's actually the opposite. So I wouldn't put it as uh, strongly as you did, like to destroy society. I'm not quite sure what it means. So we'll have to. It certainly has nothing to do with being destructive with regards to bringing harm to other people. So Bing Yu asks on June 5th. Hello, Artem. Is narcissism just trauma? Yes. So narcissism is very deep trauma. Narcissists actually suffer more than ordinary people, not less. And every ego is fundamentally narcissistic. So basically, narcissism, you can define narcissism as an extreme obsession with coming off a certain way, is an extreme obsession with how other people perceive you. So narcissists, they have to kind of constantly prop up their ideal image, how they want to be viewed, and they internalize it, right? So they, and every um, deviation from somebody else, with how they want to be viewed, with how they want to be seen, with how they see themselves, is very painful for a narcissist. So that's why there are such terms as narcissistic injury and narcissistic rage. So what is a narcissistic injury? It's basically just you telling a narcissist that you don't view them the way that they want to be viewed and the way that they view themselves. And the narcissistic rage is a painful anger response to that. So narcissism is just trauma, yes, just like ego is just trauma. And the stronger your ego is, the more traumatized it is, the more in pain it is, the more narcissistic tendencies are actually pronounced. Okay, so I will finish with my backlog of questions because I have some questions in the comments and also have some people. I will start with people. Dag, I'll talk to you later because we have Kevin here and he's never been to a broadcast before, so I'd like to speak to him first. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Artem. How are
Hey,
you?
how's it going? Good, good. How are you?
I put up a question for you. If you could make, I assume there's a direct correlation between being enlightened and being present and fully present in the moment, or some sort of gradation of presence in the moment. Can you talk about what it's like to feel present in the moment?
You said you put up a question also somewhere in writing, or?
Oh, I just put a chat up. Oh, I guess it's private chat. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah, I see that in private
oh,
chat. Yes.
sorry.
Can you describe what it's like to be fully present at the moment? Okay, okay, I see. Uh, yes, there's certainly a correlation. So the deeper you go on the spiritual path, the more you're present in the moment, and the less the mind takes you to either the past or the future. How the presence actually feels changes somewhat, right? So presence is also the first thing to be found, right? So people can describe it in a variety of different ways. Some would call it consciousness, some would call it awareness, some would call it being, right? So the presence, which is much deeper than the ego, which which is in the background of all the egoic activity, which is always have been there, like since the moment you were born, the the one thing that has never changed, and you can call it by many names. You can say consciousness, right? But from the moment you were born, it's always been present. So this is the first thing that is found actually on the spiritual path, and it can be so the nature of this presence is all accepting, is ever present, and it feels much deeper than ego. So it feels like a much deeper identity. And initially, this identity of being uh, becomes very pronounced, and it sort of becomes the forefront of experience. So in the dream state, in the egoic state, you're very much concerned with all the egoic activity in the mind, right? So there's the self image. There are thoughts about the past, the future. There's all sorts of emotions, and this is you, and this is like the most important thing. And then the identity switches from that into something that is underneath that: consciousness, presence, being, however you name it. And those things, and you realize that this has always been you, and all of the egoic activity happens inside it, happens in you. It's not you, it happens in you. Like the voice in your head is not you, it happens in you. And so this presence becomes very pronounced. uh, and how it feels like, again, it depends on the depth of the realization, but generally speaking, this presence is the source of peace, calmness, bliss, authentic joy, authentic pleasure. It's appreciation of life, satisfaction, all of it. It's our very nature, right? So life is beautiful, blissful, and joyful by nature. It's supposed to be this way. So it can be very blissful. It can be extraordinary, beautiful. I myself spent, I would say, like a few years just enjoying it. Just sitting and simply enjoying my own presence, my own being. Now, as you go deeper and deeper, uh, there is something else that is happening, because this presence, uh, this consciousness, it's not merely the presence uh, to the outside world, which is it's a big part of it. And that's also why on the spiritual journey, things start becoming more beautiful, sounds become more beautiful, your bodily sensations become more beautiful and enjoyable and acute. So yes, so the presence towards everything else increases, but it's also the presence towards your own mind. So from this new vantage point, from this point of awareness that doesn't shy away from anything, a deeper exploration into the egoic suffering, into the nature of the mind starts to happen. So emotions, the suppressed emotions come up more intensely. uh, you can get exposed to a lot of mental activity you weren't exposed before. So the madness of the mind, how the mind tries to analyze everything from multiple points of view and doesn't want to let go, and how he likes to like grab a bone and just chew it and chew it and chew it. And as this happens, there are some uncomfortables, there are some emotions. For this presence also, with time, uncovers the bodily tensions, because as we meditate, we not only see how much suppressed emotions exist in us, but also how tense the body is. It correlates, because we tense up our bodies in order to restrict ourselves, in order to restrict our expressions. So 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 it's the same very presence that engages in deeper and deeper exploration of the unconscious suffering of the ego. And as that happens, of course, we feel more suffering, we feel much more emotional, we feel our tensions. But this it's also this very presence, because it's your very being that heals those things and facilitates a deeper and deeper relaxation into itself. So at a certain stage, when this relaxation is deep enough, and when there's not a lot of unconscious, well, it's not unconscious, okay, let me put it this way: when there's not a lot of unconscious egoic suffering to bring up to the level of consciousness, to bring up and explore, by and be explored by this presence. At a certain point of time, this presence as a very uh, pronounced percept of the mind also starts to dissolve. So as they someone would say, the nature of presence is also empty. So so then in the end, it actually feels quite natural, it feels quite normal. There's no like uh, specific thing in your experience which you can point your finger to and say, well, this is my presence, right? Or some people would say, experience without a center. So it just becomes natural. It just becomes ordinary. And you can't really say how it feels like, because it doesn't feel like anything. you know, So some people said very paradoxical things, which are also true. Uh, I think in the autobiography of a Johnny, I read something like uh, Johnny is aware, and also he's not aware. So basically, it just ends up being ordinary human life without any unnecessary activity of the mind or suffering. And of course, we can talk about that in this ordinary human life, there is beauty all around. That the experience of the body, the experience of the senses, is very pleasurable unless you're in pain. Uh, all senses, like hearing, feeling, vision, they're all pleasurable, they're all beautiful, and there's no suffering in the mind, and the mind is more or less silent. But there's no like specific center that you would say, okay, this is my being, you know. So that's been my experience, and that's been the experience of pretty much anyone who ventured deep enough, from what I have read.
So that seems to me the key. It's a process. It's
Yes.
going deeper, because a lot of what you hear so-called enlightened people speak about, it's just constant bliss, and that doesn't seem to be the case necessarily.
No.
There's a
No.
lot of dross to be burned off.
That's right. Yes, actually, and many people said the same thing, that the destination is not bliss. Bliss is actually also gone at some point. So, so my experience with bliss, and the way that I describe it, is very simple. Every experience is fundamentally relative. I do not have access to your experience. You have no access to my experience. So all we can do is describe it, right? So what bliss is actually, it's a necessarily relative description of the way that you feel right now compared to how you felt before.
Mhm.
So if you were miserable and then you disidentify with the ego, it's such a relief, and it is so pleasurable that the only way that you can describe it is bliss, right? And as you go through more unconscious suffering and you let go of them, there would be another wave of bliss. But sooner or later, you get used to it, right? So a person who speaks about how blissful he is for 10 years is a liar. If you've been blissful for 10 years, how are you still talking about it? It's supposed to be so ordinary for you at this point. So because the mind gets used to any experience. So
Mhm.
so the bliss is sort of a reward. It's the other side of suffering. So you were suffered a lot, and now you don't suffer, and that's experienced as bliss. But you get used to it. And then if there's any more suffering, unconscious suffering, then you might, as you go deeper, or you meditate, or life brings it up, and you experience some of that, and then you let go of it, or you integrate it, or you accept it. It's all the same thing. And there's even more bliss. There's even more bliss. But then you get used to it. And so ultimately, bliss is replaced by lightness, by, in a way, you can even describe it as coldness of experience, but not a coldness in a sort of a negative way, right? Not like I'm being cold to this human being, but by lightness of experience. So ultimately, bliss also goes away. Yes, but it's very easy to get stuck in bliss.
Or attached to it.
Yes, get attached to it, and many people make the same mistake, right? So they think that uh, whenever something uncomfortable is coming up, they think that they're doing something wrong, and they want to go back to bliss or recreate some sort of a blissful experience. It never works for long enough periods of time. It cannot.
And along that lines too, I hear a lot about how the ego starts to dissolve or disappear, and it sounds like such BS to me that I can't imagine that my ego is ever going to disappear. It seems like you just recognize it for what it is. In many ways, you become more fully yourself, in the context of this persona that I can't imagine it's anything except part of our DNA, quite honestly. I don't know. It just seems like it's, I don't even have this desire to break down the ego anymore. It's more of a sense of living with it like any other aspect of this body. I don't know.
Well, it's up to you. But I'm also one of those people who says that the ego disappears, and in my experience, it does disappear. It does disappear. So my experience is that the spiritual journey is the journey of dissolving ego into love. But we also need to be precise with regards to what the ego really is.
Okay.
Right? If we talk about the ego as, if we think that the ego is the body, then it's never going to disappear. So it disappears as in a temporary meditation experience. This is true. So you may have a lot of experiences where it literally feels like the body disappears, and all that you experience is pure consciousness. And I've had tons of those experiences. And moreover, this is pretty much how I fall asleep. So it just becomes a very ordinary experience. It's not something profound. But the ego is not the body. Actually, when I fall asleep, all that's going on is that I'm losing awareness of my body. It doesn't mean that my body is no longer there. Even if I'm like in the deepest uh, meditative trance, which I'm no longer capable to do, but many people can. If they're like in the deepest meditation trance and they experience themselves as pristine awareness, consciousness, they completely lose awareness of the body, and I hit them with a stick, they're gonna open their eyes. Hey, here's your body.
Right.
So the ego is not the body.
But maybe I'm thinking more along the lines of the personality. I mean, you're identifiable as
Yes,
who you were 20
yes.
years
The
ago,
ego is
correct?
personality. Yes. So the ego is personality. But what is personality? A personality is basically a combination of your kind of automatic reactions to in social interactions with other people. That's what personality is, and they are automatic. They are unconscious. Like, for example, if you have a domineering personality, then you automatically try to put yourself above other people, and you do it unconsciously in all sorts of ways. And everyone who gets who starts talking to you, it will be quite obvious to them that you have a domineering personality, because you sort of show it, and in a lot of ways you show it without noticing. So, and the same thing can be said about a submissive personality, or other aspects. We can just, like, for example, agreeableness or argumentativeness, and other aspects of personality. So this actually does disappear, because all of the personality and the automatic reactions that we have to other people, it is supported by emotional resistance, basically. So like for someone with a domineering personality, for example, they feel good and safe. They feel safe. They feel in control when they can dominate another person. And when they are being dominated, they feel very anxious, and they really don't like that. So, and the same way we can give an example of of a submissive personality. So that feels safe and familiar, right? And if they were to assert themselves over someone, they would feel fear. It would be uncomfortable for them. They're not used to that, right? They would be afraid of another person's aggressive reaction. So the way that personalities interplay with each other in the mind is through emotional response. Like, some people call it energy, you can call it emotional energy, and some of this energy is very pleasing, and some of this energy is very uh, difficult. It's difficult to experience. It's difficult to accept. So we could even look at Buddhism and as they as they talk about clinging and avoidance, right? So we can speak of it as clinging to good or familiar or safe sort of, so to say, emotional experiences, and trying to avoid bad emotional experiences. Trying to, like, if you really don't like your anger, you'll try to avoid anger. If you don't like your fear, you will try to avoid fear. So the way that we cling to this personality and we try to maintain this personality is exactly through avoiding of emotional experiences which we perceive as unpleasant. So we try to maintain it. So in enlightenment, this sort of personality, this castle of personalities starts to collapse, which doesn't mean that you lose your individuality, right? So it's important not to confuse the two, and it's actually not very difficult to not confuse them. Like, for example, if you like apples, if you tell me I like apples, it would be kind of strange to me to describe it as your personality. Is it your personality? No, of course not, right? Or you like doing certain things, or you like painting, or like something like that, or you like walking, or you like a certain color. Is that your personality? No, your personality is how you behave with other people, what expectations you have of them on the emotional level, and how you want to be seen by them, how you want to be presented to them. And the personality is actually also the source of all interpersonal conflict, because if you look closely, then you will notice that most of our interpersonal conflict is when another person doesn't see us the way that we want to be seen.
Right. Persona as mask.
Yes. Yes. So just, speaking, like, coming back to the question about narcissists, right? If you're a narcissist and you want to be seen as a very smart, intelligent, sophisticated person, and someone treats you as a fool from a village, it will be extremely offensive to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's a personality. So the deeper you sort of cling and attach to how you want to be seen, and not just by others, but by yourself,
Right.
the harder it is for you to actually see you as you are at every given moment. So we can speak about enlightenment as a permission that you give to yourself to be exactly as you are at any given moment, regardless of how other people want you to be, or regardless of what they think of you.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of us is perfectly capable of exhibiting all aspects of all personalities. It's situational, right? In some situations, you can be agreeable. In some situations, you can be argumentable. You can be angry. You can be very loving and tender. You have the capacity to be any facet, any aspect of human personality. So personality is just a mode of behavior, so to speak. It's an automatic unconscious behavior. So as you make all of this behavior conscious, and more importantly, as you make conscious the automatic tendency to reject, to avoid a certain energetic emotional experience within you, and then you see that it's exactly through this avoidance you behave in an unconscious manner automatically by falling prey to it. Like for example, if you're a person who has a tendency to get angry at everybody and like has angry outbursts, then if this person uh, sees how much avoidance of anger he actually has, how uncomfortable it is for this person to simply feel anger without doing anything about it, then he will notice that his angry outburst is a futile attempt to prevent it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a futile attempt to control other people so that he doesn't feel bad when anger comes. And the same thing can be said not just about anger, but pretty much about anything else, right? So that's how our personality controls us. So so yes, if we define ego as personality, then it does tend to dissolve. And the more conscious we become about how we try to orchestrate our experience of life by trying to create certain experience within us and avoid unpleasant experience within us, the more we see how it literally controls our life, how it literally we engage in automatic behaviors that doesn't necessarily serve us, doesn't necessarily serve other people. So that is the ego, and it does tend to behave. It doesn't mean that you, and it does tend to dissolve. It doesn't mean that you cannot express all aspects of personality. You absolutely can, but you make it consciously. You understand what's going on, and you understand why you behave this way. It's not sort of automatic knee-jerk reaction. So the automatic knee-jerk egoic reaction is always a reaction to pain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, if you notice yourself behaving automatically in certain situations and in a suboptimal manner, in a manner that you know is not best for you, or in a manner that you know is not best for someone else, well, try behaving differently and see what happens. Because most likely, if you just try behaving differently, there will be a lot of displeasure inside. That's a personality.
Well, and basically what it comes down to, I guess, is that that allows you an opportunity to recognize these things and let them go. And
Yes, so awareness or being or consciousness, this part of yourself which is always there and isn't afraid of any internal experience, is exactly, yes, what gives us the opportunity to recognize ourselves, to recognize it, to see where it's coming from, to explore and accept the pain that it's coming from. And then we become freer in our behavior and more conscious in our behavior.
yeah, well, that's helpful. It's illuminating. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Appreciate that. All right.
It's my pleasure, my friend. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, Maxime. Hi, how are you?
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend.
I was wondering if you could speak about moving from being into non-being and how to process the emotional feelings that come with it. It's much more pleasant, it's much more peaceful, but there's also much more fear, right?
Yes.
In this, yes. So it's, and I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel this is connected to some kind of fatherly figure or something. Because as I see it,
What?
like a fatherly figure.
What is a fatherly figure?
Like a father, like
No, yeah, I understand. But what before that? What did you say about it? I missed that.
Like, as I see it on my path, I was really like first healing the motherly figures, right? With the heart and cleaning energies and that kind of stuff.
You're kind of talking about archetypes that you experience in your mind. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And now I'm coming into this pure space of awareness of like nothingness. And I feel this is somehow connected to my father. I know it's very weird, but in Christianity, of course, it's just Christianity, who cares? But we call it like God the Father is like before existence came, only there was nothing there, right? And my whole life I was scared of this place. And I don't know if you can comment. Now I'm not scared at all. I love it. And if you can comment if it's related to the fatherly figure in any way, like human parents or not.
So the archetypes that you will deal with are personal, but it doesn't surprise me that you interpret it this way.
Yeah.
Because the way that a lot of us associate parental archetypes is, the mother is accepting and loving,
Yes.
whereas the father is just, right, or truthful. Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me that you have this, archetypes coming up, and it feels more masculine because whereas being is more about loving acceptance. Non-being is more about cold truth than
Yeah,
yes.
but I
Yeah.
feel really manly in this place.
For what?
I feel really manly in this place, like really manly. Yeah, and it was like before that I was somehow struggling to be manly or something. I don't know. It's weird.
It may also have to do with your femininity and masculinity. So it could, a lot of things can get sort of intertwined and bogged together in those stereotypes. So there's little sense in trying to analyze it on this level, right?
Of course.
With regards to going from being to non-being, so basically, being is appreciative of life.
Mm.
It's the deepest appreciation of the beautiful, of the beauty of life. Non-being is the acceptance of death.
Mhm.
It's the appreciation that it's not going to last forever,
Yeah.
and uh, and it's much deeper peace,
Oh yeah.
yes, but there's much more fear in it,
Yeah.
and there's no way, there's no like tactic or technique. We can actually speak about tactics or techniques to realize being. There's absolutely no tactic or technique to realize non-being. It just happens. There's no technique whatsoever. So
Yes.
all you can do at this stage is just as you practice is surrender to fear when it comes. There's absolutely nothing you can do. There are no techniques that work there. None.
No.
No.
And the fear was the good thing, right? It woke
Yes.
me up from the dream. Yes.
Yes, and the fear is a good thing. Yes, so the continued fear is a good thing. Yes.
It's almost like I was resisting this, because we talk of waking up from the dream, like from, and we resist this. I think.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think the whole spiritual thing, also the cleaning and healing, was also some kind of resistance to the real thing, right?
Well, I mean, you can say so, but it was required, right? Because like we go through many layers of the ego,
Mhm.
right? So we need to be ready. We need to heal our past traumas. We need to be ready to appreciate life. Then once we have had our fill with the joy and the beauty of life, we we become ready to accept the ultimate, and then after actually even after that, you will see that being and non-being are one, that life and death are also one, that they cannot exist without each other. They will actually merge together, because life is meaningless without death. It cannot exist without death, and death of course cannot exist without life. So both are two aspects of one, both are two aspects of the whole. But of course, the uh, the emptiness of death, which also renders life meaningless in some way, is a deeper, scarier experience than the beauty of everyday moment and the beauty of life itself. But you cannot even approach it, without having worked through much more trivial, let's say, aspects and woes and pains and hurts of the ego.
Mhm.
It is much easier for the ego to let go of its complaints and learn to enjoy life than to let go of life and accept death. It's much easier. So as you go on the spiritual path, you will you will work through trivial complaints, and then deeper stuff and deeper stuff and deeper stuff. So it it does tend to get harder. Uh, up,
Better yet.
but it also tends to get better. So up until a certain point, and then it gets easier.
Yeah. But there's no going back. I think I'm really
No.
in this place of nothingness.
No. And there's nothing to do. And
it's not scary. It's I think it was, I went to the therapist. We talked about this a few weeks back. Some karmic thing was still there with the sexual aggression. Not in this life, maybe another, doesn't matter. And I went to a guy who released me from the karmic thing. And now it almost felt like that was the thing missing to make me accept the nothingness, because it always put me in the kind of flight or fight mode where I'm not able to relax, right? And I've always been a very dynamic person, but this dynamism was hiding some kind of fear of just stopping, right? And it was coming from the sexual aggression. And now that I've heard this, it's so much more easy.
Good. But there's no technique I can give you. So just accept whatever comes.
Wonderful.
Okay, so it was good. It was good talking to you. Next, let me bring someone else. Okay, I'll remove you from the studio because I think Wendell has like five. Yes, but you can watch on YouTube or come back if you have another question. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, Dad, let me come back to you, but I also have a bunch of guests, so let's not make it too long, if you can. Hi, Dag.
Hi, sorry, don't have a camera at the moment. I hope that's all right.
It's okay.
Yeah. I had two things. Maybe I'll try to make it concise. One thing kind of ties in with the conversation you had with Kevin, at least parts of it. I had an experience recently that where I felt as if every relationship, every kind of positive connection I've ever had in my life, like everyone, family, friends, it's kind of seemed like a lie, and it seemed like it was like I actually had no real connection or feelings for these people at all, and it was temporary. After that, I've also had especially with my partner, I've had experience of feeling like really connected again, but that was pretty heavy, because it seemed like in that moment it seemed like the only logical thing here would have been to chuck it all and never talk to anybody again. But somehow I kind of knew that it was that also probably wouldn't have been the right choice here. Yet it's it was a really heavy thing to have to experience that, because it wasn't even it's not that I was highly emotional in that moment, and yet it felt really alienating. And
Is that concise?
I feel like it. Is it?
Okay. Let me comment on that. It's true. I'm sorry to tell you. It only feels alienating because you are used to relate to people and form relationships to people based on feelings.
Yes.
but feelings isn't love.
Yeah.
And moreover, feelings are actually suffering. Passionate feelings is also suffering. Osho used to
Yeah.
say that the passion in love is unacknowledged hatred, and he was right. Passion is unacknowledged hatred. So the feelings is what we experience. Just like in my conversation with Kevin, some people give us pleasant feelings and some people give us unpleasant feelings. And we like people who give us pleasant feelings, and we don't
Yeah.
like people who give us unpleasant feelings. But we also cannot but hate people who give us pleasant feelings, because we start depending on them.
Yes.
And if someone can give you a pleasant feeling, then they can also give you a bad one.
Yeah.
So all of those relationships are actually kind of a sick interdependent relationship where we try to get from others what we are lacking inside.
Yeah.
So from this perspective, most of the relationship that the ego, the personality forms, is a lie. Yes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that there's no love underneath it. And it doesn't mean that you have to become a recluse and you won't speak to any other person at all, because other than constantly trying to satisfy our feelings and use each other to feel better about ourselves, which is what we do when we're engaged in it, right? We use each other to feel better about ourselves.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's authentic joy and pleasure of spending time together. There's helping each other. There's living together. There's just love, as in caring for each other. So the relationships that the ego engages in are always, they always have the element of bitterness or hatred in it, unfortunately.
But it seems to, in most cases, it seems to be quite thoroughly covered up if it needs this, like this degree of awareness to become, to make it conscious. It seems to be quite thoroughly covered up.
Very covered up. It's extremely covered up. But I mean, it's obvious to me now, but just look at the state of the world, or like the state of romantic love. Everyone's talking about romantic love, and most unions don't, well, not most, but at least half of them last for like 4 or 5 years, sometimes maybe less. People lose this spark very, very quickly, or how quickly love turns to hatred. So you loved the person, then this person stopped satisfying you. It stopped satisfying you emotionally, and there's so much bitterness.
Yeah,
right?
Been there.
Because you basically gave this person your happiness. You said, my happiness depends on how I feel, and I give it to you. And then of course you're going to hate or resent them afterwards, because they cannot satisfy it. Even you don't control how you feel. How can they? Right? Even if you feel great every time that someone compliments you, sooner or later it will stop working too.
Yeah.
So yes, unfortunately, those relationships are a lie, and it's very difficult to see.
I also feel that.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
Okay. I also feel that it can kind of happen that we then literally have to get to know the other almost from the start.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, also can also be scary, but also quite interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
yes. And we also, you can say the same thing about yourself. We get to know ourselves almost from the start, because there's so much that was hidden in those interactions. and those relationships, and a lot of which are formed purely out of insecurity.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so we explore ourselves, and we almost from the start we look at ourselves differently, and we get to know ourselves. And the deeper we get to know ourselves, the deeper we get to know everyone else, because we're all very much fundamentally alike. All personalities are empty. All personal characteristics are empty in their opposition. Actually, it's like one person is a proud one, and another is very humble. But the one that is very humble is very proud of their humility, and just like the proud person thinks that they're better than the humble one. The humble one, of course, also thinks that they're better than the pride one.
Yeah.
And then if someone is domineering, someone is submissive, both think that they deserve their places. Both are wrong. So, egos oftentimes tend to kind of find their match, so to speak, with whom this unhealthy relationships forms, and suffer together for a while, which
Yeah.
is the basis of pretty much all abusive relationships. You can say to the abuser about, well, why are you doing these things? But why is a person who is in an abusive relationship cannot leave? It should be as easy as anything else. I'm not talking about the situation where it's financially difficult, or the abuse is physical and includes some sort of physical restraint, which is just a crime, a serious crime. But most abuse relationships are not like that. In most abuse
Yeah.
relationships, people can leave. They're just afraid to lose this person.
Yeah.
So yes,
It's quite a challenge for me, or I'm also trying to just be patient with that, to more and more see, okay, what parts of the people I've got in my life are what how do I, what is genuine in me and what might not be. And it's gotten to the point where I think I'm trying to, or I can at least kind of accept a bit more that it's probably gonna be at least somewhat messy during this.
yes, it's going to be very messy, and don't try to figure out what is genuine and what not, because those parts that aren't genuine, and those parts that are suffering, those illusions and the pains that they create, they're also a part of you. So they also
Yes.
need your love and acceptance. They also need your awareness. You cannot ignore them. The So as it crumbles, as the awareness goes deeper and deeper, and explores your unconscious, and the false parts of you, the non-genuine parts of you leave, the insights that come from this, they will come sort of seemingly out of nowhere, and they will stay. The authentic insight, so I repeat it oftentimes, is that the authentic insight comes as obvious truth. And it comes as obvious truth, and it has the flavor of, I have always known this. It always was true. I have
Yeah.
just been in denial. And it cannot be changed afterwards, right? So whereas you're just trying to figure out what is true and what is not, you can come up to some question intellectually, only to be invalidated later.
Yeah.
So basically, just live, practice, process the energies, process the emotions, and there will be more and more of insights of exactly this flavor. It has always been true. So as you forget the false, the truth becomes obvious. It's folly to try to kind of dig it out. You
Yeah.
can dig it out by challenging the false. Like you can say, well, how do I know that? Is it really true? And then if you're doing this diligently, there will always be confusion, because it's like you're going into the place of not knowing, admitting that you don't really know the things that you thought you knew. So
Yes.
it's like you challenge yourself, then there's a period of confusion, and then when something becomes obvious, it just becomes obvious. And it's
Yeah.
like, I've always known this, always.
Yeah.
It's like, I've always known that this person doesn't treat me right. I was just desperate for attention, and I was willing to overlook it.
Yeah.
But I've always known.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your question. Let me address some of the comments that I received. Okay, Steady says, is meditation a slow path? Not necessarily. It depends on the person. I mean, it's certainly not as intense as if you combine it with psychedelics. But no, I mean, for some people, it can be very difficult to meditate, and there are a lot of insights. I made a lot of insights with in meditation. In fact, after self-realization, I could not meditate. I meditated like for 3 hours every day for many years. And do you have to really do hours of meditation for years to make any spiritual progress? At least that's been my experience as compared to psychedelics. Yeah, I mean, compared to psychedelics, yes. You also have to remember that meditation is rest. I mean, fundamentally, it's rest. So what has also been my experience is that the mind is so abusive, and the ego is so abusive towards yourself and towards other people. And as a result of that, our bodies also are so ridden with tensions and inflammation, maybe internal inflammation, that it does tend to take a lot of rest. Almost universally, people that I speak on the spiritual path, even those who has a tremendous opening experience and then they're filled with energy, still at a certain point of time, they feel tired after this initial release of energy runs out. They feel tired and they want to rest. They want to meditate. They start feeling very sleepy. Osho also felt very sleepy for a few years. I felt very sleepy. It's entirely natural. It's just that most of the time we require a prolonged period of rest after many years of abusing ourselves. So even if your path towards self-realization, your path towards seeing the illusory, self-created nature of the ego is relatively fast, after that, you would still probably want to meditate and rest for many hours a day as all of this comes crashing down. It's also a very physical process, so it can be quite difficult for the body. There could be bliss or energies rushing through the body, tingling, jerking. You basically reconnecting to the body after having been disconnected and separated from the body by layers of dreaming. And it does tend to take a lot of rest. It's actually quite difficult for people oftentimes to continue working when they're undergoing it. So I wouldn't say that some paths are slow, some paths are fast. You can make an insight very fast, but then it would still take you years to integrate it. And during those years, you will meditate and rest a lot. Okay. Then you continue. You say, I feel like also attending satsangs help empty me. Yeah, if you feel it, then it's true. But trying to achieve the same through my personal practice seems like something that's going to take too long. Possibly, right? It's you know better. You know yourself better than I do. So, strictly speaking, the more intense the experience is, the faster it will be if you speaking about your time, your life. So if attending satsang or a retreat feels more intense, that it brings up more unconsciousness, that there's more to feel, more to experience, more insights comes, more openings, it will also be, you will also probably want to rest afterwards. Then, so if it is all of this is true compared to, let's say, solitary meditation practice for 2 hours, then yes, then it is that is probably will be probably more productive for you at this point. Yes. Okay, Aja says, is it possible to relate to those around you the same way after enlightenment as before? No, it isn't. Because the way that you relate to those around you before enlightenment is the way that ego relates to those around you. So it's going to be very different for sure. And also, the way that you relate to yourself after enlightenment or self-realization or whatever it is will change dramatically. So the spiritual journey is a journey from judging yourself to loving yourself. And the way that we relate to others and the way that we relate to ourselves is the same thing. So we relate to others exactly the way that we relate to ourselves. If you're very judgmental towards yourself, as by the way narcissists are, they just want to hide it, then you're also going to be very judgmental towards others. If you're very loving towards yourself, then you're going to be loving towards others. And on the spiritual path, there will be periods of uncovering and experiencing a lot of self-judgment, and consequently periods of uncovering and experiencing a lot of judgment towards other people. So it will change. Initially, those judgments are hidden, then they become present and obvious and conscious, and then as we dissolve the pain that those judgments are coming from by giving it awareness, attention, and love, we become more and more calm and loving towards ourselves and other people. So there will absolutely be changes. It is not quite possible. I mean, you continue. How much does it change, especially with a romantic partner? A lot. And especially with a romantic partner. And especially with people who know you very well, like with your parents, with your children. Of course. Yes, of course. Okay. Then you post the same question another time. All right. So I think I addressed that. Let me bring Anonymika. And then I'll bring Max. Hey.
Hello. I won't be turning on my cam though.
What did you say?
I won't be turning on my cam though.
I still didn't get it.
I will not be using the camera.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right.
I wrote my question in the private chats.
Okay,
So,
let me take a look.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're right. Moving towards self-realization, my mind's going through a last acute pain. Maybe it's the first one. Last acute pain of never having experienced a relationship, and that I don't need one going to the other side. Okay, you don't need one, but it doesn't mean you won't find one pleasurable or enjoyable. You know, there's this fear of, okay, well, I have never experienced that, and I don't want to let it go. But that's not the letting go of enlightenment. The letting go of enlightenment is letting go of our need to be loved by someone else. It doesn't mean that you will not find someone to love, that you will not experience a wonderful relationship. It doesn't mean that you won't have children. It doesn't mean there are some people who have never found something they love as an occupation, right? And they may have very similar concerns, right? How can I let go of what I still haven't satisfied myself with? But what we're really letting go of is our need of something to be happy, is our pain of dissatisfaction with ourselves. It doesn't mean that when you are satisfied with yourself, you will not enjoy a romantic partnership, or you will not enjoy some occupation. So don't view the other side as something that robs you of the things that are beautiful in life. It only robs you of your pain, insecurity, and dissatisfaction with life. I'm going through a particular suffering that oh, by the way, you sent it to me as a private message. Is that okay if I read it?
Oh yeah, sure. I just couldn't connect on.
Okay.
the YouTube.
I'm going through a particular suffering that I missed an important part of human experience. How old are you?
28.
You still have plenty of time to experience it.
I might die tomorrow.
You may, sure.
I don't
Yes,
know.
and then you'll miss it.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility, yes. Yes. But are you planning to?
No.
Okay. Okay. My mind still wants to experience egoic love and egoic sexuality. What is egoic love? Ego cannot love. Egoic love is dependence. That's what you say. Like, my mind still wants to experience egoic love. No, that's not what you want to experience. What you want to experience is a partnership which is built on authentic acceptance and love for each other, authentic tenderness and warmth to each other, authentic desire for each other's well-being. That's what you want to experience.
Yeah.
And
You're right.
the more authentically loving you are towards yourself, the easier it will be for you to experience it. Osho once said, the capacity of being alone is the capacity to love. He was right. Because if you cannot be alone, if you need someone, you cannot love them, because you cannot love what you need. You cannot
Yeah.
love what you depend on.
Yeah, I'm not a dependent. I'm just
But
what we
but
read.
you say, when you say my mind still wants to experience egoic love, that's what it
Yeah,
is. It's dependence.
I chose the wrong term then. Yeah.
Okay. And egoic sexuality. I mean, like, what is egoic sexuality? Like sexuality is sexuality. If you mean that by egoic sexuality, like different stories in the mind that like help you get going, like, for example, explore the dominant side or submissive side, or like, rape fantasies, for example, or like, the fantasy of submission and domination, or game playing, character playing, things like that, then what's wrong with that? I mean, for as long as it helps you to get aroused and experience sex the way that you want to experience, there's nothing wrong with that. So that is your gateway towards it for now. Maybe later you won't need it, but that's why I always say, in sex, it's best to just explore and be yourself, and not judge each other for our kinks and different expressions, because yes, you could say that our kinks and different expressions in sexuality are informed by our conditioning. Yes. Okay, so what? Uh, it's like, for example, I could say that any hurt feelings or tears are informed by our conditioning. If someone called you a name and you start crying, that's informed. But if I'm with you and it happens, and I said something to you, and you start crying, and I would be like, see, it's your ego's crying. That's not love. That's not acceptance. So the same thing applies to sex. Like, instead of like trying to analyze, do you like to spank my butt because you have like domineering ego, and there's something wrong with it? That's not a way to approach it. Like, if you enjoy it also when he spanks your butt, then just enjoy it. But if you don't enjoy it, then negotiate and do something else.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
Okay. So then you say, I'm aware my mind is clinging to last piece of addiction. Okay, last. Everything is last. Everything is always like the last.
Well, it's the last for now. It might be my
Okay, yes,
last.
it's the last for now. Yes. But not feeling the void with the person. Yeah, just do what your hearts tell you. Like, if there is a person to whom you are attracted to and you want to be with them, go for them. If there is no one currently, or you want to spend more time in solitary practice, do that. Don't second guess all the time. Like, am I living my life right? You are. How do I
Okay.
get over this FOMO, fear of missing out, on one of the mind's most beautiful dreams? Whenever fear comes, like, if your mind gives you a story of, oh, I'm gonna die a virgin with 12 cats, like, nothing's gonna, I will
I
never
have
have
3 now.
children, I will be an enlightened recluse, no man
But
is gonna come near me, like, just feel the fear that it creates in you, and it's just a story.
yeah, I have 3 now. I'm still not with 12 cats, but I'm on the way.
Okay.
So there is like I had this feedback that like, oh, I am not the right person. You're going to find the right person. My mind was like, but you are the right person right now. There's no another right person for
Of
me.
course. Yes.
Like, that person is the right person for me, but he doesn't believe that.
Oh,
And
he
because
doesn't
he
believe.
doesn't believe that, I end up not I also ended up not believing that, because of course you don't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with you. It will lead nowhere.
Yes, it's true. But I mean, he doesn't believe that because, uh, well, I mean,
We cannot assume about what he might be thinking.
right. Yes. So the question here is, he doesn't believe that because he is, uh, he's insecure, and he has doubts that, like, for example, he likes you, but is more like, oh, I will never make you happy, I'm so damaged, or like stuff like that, like, I have a lot of troubles and problems in me, and someone like you shouldn't be with someone like me, right? But you feel that he's the right person for you.
Yeah.
Then I would say pursue him. But if you but maybe if he really doesn't like you at all, and then maybe there's an illusion in you that he's the right person for you. In any event, the more you practice to be comfortable with those feelings of abandonment or pain or displeasure or yearning, the easier it will be for you to see who's the right person for you and who's not.
But like, abandonment is and pain is all I've known. Acceptance is something that I haven't never known. But now I accepted myself. So what do I do with that now?
Yes, so if abandonment is all you've ever known, then there's a lot of self-abandonment, self-rejection.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. I did that. I self-rejected before he rejected me.
Exactly.
Mm, okay. Well, I hope it's gonna solve itself.
It will, with time. With
So the
time and practice.
problem, I had another insight that, or like question that I might be sharing, because like I have been in a situation where I kind of like, okay, that person doesn't want to be with me in the way I want to be with him. So I kind of like explored other people. But what I noticed is that these other people, it might be my ego projecting, but like I felt that like the attraction to me is kind of dangerous. It's kind of like I can see they have an unacknowledged hate that can, like, I could notice that they have some sort of love towards me that is not
Genuine.
benevolent.
That is not genuine, right? So they're,
Yeah, like they
yeah,
like me and they're
yeah.
everything that you can think of, but like I felt that like that person would be dangerous if I am with them in an intimate situation, because I know they don't genuinely love me. They love an idea of something. So this is why I haven't been
Trust
able
your
to be.
intuition. Yes,
What?
yes. I know what you're talking about. Trust your intuition.
Exactly. But that person, like their behavior, like this person that I have a crush on, his behavior is textbook everything that is dangerous about a person. But like I know that the inside is different, which is very weird to me. So like my mind is decoding all the behavior as like typical no, serial killer kind of like behavior. But like my heart is like, I know it's just being really clumsy, and I
Your heart is probably right. Yes, like trust your intuition. Intuition is unacknowledged, is unconscious knowledge. So
unconscious knowledge.
yes, that's what intuition is, and the mind thinks it knows. So the mind, analyzes the mind. Uh, like the habits of the mind are very different from reality. The mind is constantly in a habit to seek happiness from another person, to avoid any uncomfortable emotional experience. The mind has a lot of habits. The mind has a habit of self-rejection, of self-evaluating, of getting validation from other people. So when the mind says one thing, but your heart, your intuition says another thing, it is probably right. And what you also will notice about the mind versus intuition is that the mind is very fickle. I mean, one day it may think one thing, and then another day it may think another thing. But the intuition, what your heart is telling you, kind of stays the same. So if your heart is telling you that this person is right for you, it will be the same now and a week from now and 2 weeks from now, even though you may go through a roller coaster of emotions with him.
Yeah.
So this is a signal that the intuition is right, that your heart is right.
Okay. Well, I hope the problem will solve itself in that
It will with
case.
time. Yeah, the more as you see the mind, the more you work through the pain of the mind and the emotional suppression, the easier and clearer it will be for you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, last guest, Max.
Hello,
Hi.
how are you? Привет.
Good. Привет.
Yeah, I'm just without camera because I'm in hospital. Sorry.
It's okay.
I put it on the comments. My question. It's very.
I haven't seen it. What was it? YouTube?
No, here on the chat.
Oh, that's private chat. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
It could be. Yeah, it seems very general question, but for me, it's not general because you know my situation. So it could be. Yeah, it could be different. The perspective to hear regarding to my perspective.
Okay, I'm just gonna, I mean, this questions, like people like asking questions that they don't understand what they mean. So let me clarify if that's what's going on here. Does life make sense to you? What do you mean when you say does life make sense? What exactly does it mean? What does it mean for life to make sense or not make sense?
Probably from my perspective, there is some meaning of the life experience, even if we
hold on.
Yeah.
There's a difference between make sense and have meaning.
All right.
So are you asking, does life have meaning for you, or does life make sense? I mean, like I can stand up and pour myself a cup of water and drink it, and of course it makes sense.
Right.
But it's different questions from does life have meaning for you?
Since I'm in the specific situation, it's probably difficult sometimes to embrace the situation. Sometimes I'm lost because it's not just the physical suffering, but also I'm on self-realization process. So it's two ways in the same times. From this, probably from this, yeah.
And I also see that you continue, you say, since there is no meaning to create the purpose. Yes, so it's not a question of making sense, you know. Making sense is very kind of habitual, and I mean, does it make sense to me that I'm speaking to you on my laptop? Of course it does. I mean, so you're talking about meaning and purpose, which are very different things. So first of all, I want to tell you that you will get confused many times. So confusion is natural and it's completely unavoidable, because the spiritual journey is this journey to clarity. If there is more clarity, then there is confusion. If you're not entirely and completely clear, then you will get confused. And it means that there is some confusion in you, and it will become conscious one way or another, sooner or later. And before things get clearer, they will get more confusing. It's completely normal. So it can go in waves. It can go sort of a wave of confusion and then clarity. Confusion is actually good. Confusion means that you're about to get something. Yes, that you're about to understand something, you know, because if you didn't need to understand anything, there would be no confusion. So with regards to meaning and purpose, no, my life doesn't have meaning. It doesn't mean it doesn't make sense, and I do not have any purpose. Life cannot have a meaning outside of it. It's not a possibility. Because if life has a meaning, it means that something gave life meaning. It means that there is something grander than life, and nothing is grander than life. So life's meaning is life. Life is its own meaning. The meaning of my life is my life. And the same thing applies to purpose. I cannot have a purpose because if I have a purpose, it means that I can fail in my purpose, and I cannot fail in my life. It's absurd.
Yeah.
And also, if I have a purpose, it means that I'm a slave to my purpose. It means that suddenly, if I want to do something else, then I can't, because I have a purpose. And then if I can throw away my purpose, drop it at a moment's notice, and take another purpose, then it's not a purpose at all. Then I'm just using this kind of high noble word to show off, but that's not what I'm talking about, right? So any purpose is fundamentally bondage. So if you have a purpose which you can change at a moment's notice at your whim, basically, then why are you using such a word? Then it's not purpose. So the meaning of my life is life itself, and my life cannot have a purpose.
Probably from my perspective, it's since I'm the specific situation, I see the things in this phase probably from like for what I'm fighting. These kind of questions.
Why? Yes, I mean the question is, why do you want life to have meaning? What does it mean for you, and why do you want life to have purpose? And the reason probably you want life to have purpose, if you're honest with yourself, is that if you think that if you had a purpose, then life would be easier. Or if you had a purpose, then things would be clear. Things would be clearer. Or
but at the same time, I like suffering because it's like I don't know, it's weird, but I'm feeling happy that I can accept the suffering, and then the life moments. Probably yeah, it's weird, but it's yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so why don't you just view it like
and try to, yeah, probably try to embrace and use the physical issue that I have, and then embrace it and use just like opportunity into self-realization process.
Yes, so maybe you can view your purpose as life right now, embracing life itself and embracing everything that is happening to you.
Yeah, and probably it's the only way to realize the self-realization mode.
Yes.
Probably,
so for now, you can say that this is your life purpose, is just embracing everything that is happening to you.
All right. It's confused, but yeah, it's sometimes hard to accept, probably. When it comes hard times, probably, yeah, but it's acceptable, by the way. Yeah, so
you can say also that the highest purpose of life is becoming free, and you can also say that the highest purpose of life is self-realization. The highest purpose of life is enlightenment. But you can also say that the highest purpose of life is joy, right? But once you're
like I also said, yeah.
Yes, but once you're joyful and happy and free, then the purpose disappears.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm on the way. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Those questions will arise. Yes, I mean, let the mind chew on this question, but also notice what's happening energetically, emotionally with you, because ultimately all those philosophical questions about life's meaning and purpose, they always arise out of dissatisfaction.
All right. Yeah, because it was different stage of my probably 2 years ago. It was 3 things. All the things happened. So I literally realized that I can create the best part of my ego. So manifestation part. So even if so, then after I understood that I can realize the manifestation part, that comes my issue with my health. So then I understood very fast that the purpose it wasn't to create my best ego part, and it was the self-realization. So entering into self-realization part. So yeah, it was very fast in these stages, all the stages.
Kevin also added to the comments. She says, life is fundamentally experienced in a relationship. Do you find it to be the case? Yes. I mean, I would even say that relationship is part of experience. So relationship is also experience. So I would just say life is fundamentally experience. That's what life is. Life is experience. And this is very true. And the way the amount to which you can enjoy life is the amount to which you can enjoy the experience. So the more you sort of relax your resistance to experience, and the more you relax your demanding that you have a sort of one experience and not the other, and the more you approach the immediacy of the experience at every present moment, the more you learn to enjoy any experience, and the more joyful your life becomes. Life is fundamentally experience, yes. And the ego is the opposite. The ego wants to manage experience. It wants to construct experience. It wants to scheme for experience. It likes some experience. It doesn't like some other experience. And it also wants to analyze the experience. But life is deeper than that. Life is the experience itself.
Yeah, I guess I'm on the way on this stage, but yeah, I need some time.
It will be seen deeper and deeper with continued practice. It will be seen deeper and deeper. Yes, I mean this confusions and this question, they will arise many times. So.
Because it seems that it's very easy on this part of my life to play with egos, because probably I have idea. Sometimes I have idea that I can control when I can use the ego or not to use the ego. Yeah, it's weird. Because
it's not,
it's probably
I mean,
always
it's the opposite.
always
The ego uses you. You cannot use
okay.
the ego uses you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for coming, my
Yeah,
friend.
thanks.
Thank you. Okay, and then finally we have one more comment. Sweet Tea Boy says, "What is this special situation he mentions? He mentioned 10x. I'm not sure what you're talking about. If someone in our broadcast mentioned some specific situation but didn't tell what it is exactly, then they probably didn't want to. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure how to answer this question. Okay, I think that's it. I addressed a few questions from my backlog, many comments, spoke to many people. It was a very interesting and productive broadcast today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Kevin, for coming. It was good seeing you. I hope to see more faces on the video next time. Thank you for your questions. I'll see you next Sunday at 11 a.m. Love you all. Bye, guys. Bye. Bye.